Greetings, Otaku Faithful. Thank you for joining me again this week. Once again, it's Larry Williams, OAW Commander-in-Chief, and I'm here to bring you all my anime favorites for August 2012, right here on Otaku Assemble! Weekly, as always, I'm here to bring you the latest in this month's anime favorites video segment. But before I jump into this month's anime favorite, I want to go ahead and remind you all to pledge to my comic book miniseries Totems on Kickstarter.com. Link will be annotated above. And I hope you all will pledge. But with that being said, now let's jump into my anime favorites for August 2012, which I am dedicating this month to my, my 9th favorite anime series of all time, and that is Death Note. So let's jump into a brief summary about Death Note. Now, Death Note is a Japanese manga created by writer Tsugumi Ohba and manga artist Takeshi Obata. The main character is Light Yagami, a high school student who discovers a supernatural notebook, the Death Note, dropped on Earth by a Shinigami, a god of death, named Ryuk. The Death Note grants its user the ability to kill anyone whose name and face they know by writing the name in the notebook while picturing their face. The series centers around Light's attempt to create and rule a world cleansed of evil as God, using the notebook and the efforts of a detective known as L to stop him. So that's a brief summary about the series as a whole. Now, with that being said, let's jump into my favorite characters, hero, and villain. Now, first off, for any of you all who have seen my favorite heroes, favorite villains video for Death Note on Rogues Gallery Inc., if you want more details about these characters, feel free to check those videos out, but I'm going to go ahead and briefly mention them here. So, my favorite hero in the Death Note series is L, hands down. With all the L memorabilia I own and whatnot. But no, I really do like the character of L, and the main reason why I like him is I like how they introduced L as kind of like a modern day Sherlock Holmes. I mean, his deductive reasoning is matched by none, and his perception is damn near flawless. But also, I like his quirks, you know, just in the same vein as Sherlock Holmes. For any of you all who know anything about Sherlock Holmes, you know, his vices. Sherlock Holmes is a drug, you know, he's a drug user. He uses a lot of drugs, whereas L, his addiction is sweets. Throughout the series, he's either eating some type of cake or some type of ice cream or some type of candy or hot chocolate. And then, of course, the various physical quirks he has, such as sitting like this, so that his deductive reasoning peaks by 10% whenever he's sitting like this. He always walks around barefoot, never wears shoes, even in public. His sort of crouchy, shrewd type of demeanor. All in all those things kind of accumulate into why I like L so much. But then, of course, what does L provide to the series? L is the necessary counterforce that the main character, Light, who serves as the series antagonist, needs. You know, L, for the most part, manages to match Light on almost every angle, despite the fact that Light technically has an advantage with the notebook, with the Death Note, but L is still able to kind of, you know, match him in wits, which is now going to bring me to my discussion about my favorite villain, who is Light Yagami. Now I will go as far as to say that Light is my overall favorite character in the series, but especially as the series' main antagonist, for all the things that Light does, for all the things that he encompasses, and all the things that he represents. I think, to sum it up, my favorite thing about Light is the fact that Light is, for all intent and purpose, the tragic villain, in the sense that Light does have good reasons for doing what he's doing. Ideally speaking, Light's ideology is one of goodness. It's one of righteousness. Light does have a point in many of the things that he wants to accomplish, and in many of his goals, he does have justification in those. Okay? In that sense, Light is a good guy. The problem comes into play with the way in which he accomplishes these things. His motives are just, but his exercises and his actions are evil. And that's why I think that Light is, that's why I deem him the tragic villain, because he could be a good guy. He has all the potential to be one, but he lets his own ambition cloud his judgment, and when he gets to the point when Light starts killing other people, I'm not just talking about the criminals that Light is killing, but when Light starts killing good people who get in the way of his goals, that's when he makes the jump into full villainy. And like I said, it's tragic because he could have been the hero. He could have been the good guy. Now, my least favorite characters of the series, and there are two. One's a hero, one is a villain, but it's arguably about whether or not you can consider her a villain, but she is an antagonist. First off, least favorite hero is Nier. Fucking hate Nier with every portion of my being. I never liked Nier. I stand firmly with my original assessment of the character. He is only there to replace L. He does not do a good job replacing him. Yes. Does he, win in the end? Of course he does. Why? Because he's the good guy. But he is not L. And he will never measure up to being L. And hell, if it wasn't for the breadcrumbs that Mello left behind, he wouldn't have been able to catch Light in the first place. So, Nier, you are no L. You will never be L. You are a pale fraction of what L was as a detective. You're not charismatic. I don't give a shit about you as a character. No, Nier, you fail, sir. Least favorite villain / antagonist, and like I said, it's debatable whether or not she is technically a villain, but she is an antagonist. Why? Because she is not on the good guy's side. That's Misa. Hate Misa with all my heart and all my soul and every portion of my being. I've never liked Misa. I thought she was nothing but a distraction. I thought she was nothing more than a nuisance. She was a liability that Light did not need on his side. But then again, in regards to liabilities, you could say the exact same thing about Megami, and you can say the exact same thing about Homegirl that Light had working with her in the second half of the series. All three of these characters were liabilities. Misa, though, was, in my opinion, the biggest liability. And the reason for that being is, number one, she got caught. Number two, she had a Shinigami of her own. She had Rin. And Rin had already made the promise that if anything had happened to Misa, she would kill Light, which forced Light to go through that big grand scheme of having Misa captured and then having himself captured and then having to clear their names just to get Rin off his fucking back. That's a huge liability that Light did not need. Misa's personality is shitty. She's to say that she's supposed to be so goddamn smart, she behaves like an airhead, okay? She's too goddamn flighty for one. And to say that she wants to, first off, the whole reason that she wants to be with Kira because Kira killed her parents' killer, I thought was weak. You do not dedicate your entire being to somebody just because they killed the person who killed your parents. To me, that's not a good enough reason. And consider this, if you do something like that, then the person who does that is not in their right mind. They're obsessive, which is what Misa was. Which was another reason why I didn't like Misa. And it's another reason why I don't like the character of Megami, but I'll address him probably later on down the line. They're obsessive. And I didn't like those fucking characters because when you're obsessive, you are no longer rational. When you are no longer rational, you fuck things up with Light. and I was rooting for Light in the series. So they were all liabilities, Misa being the biggest fucking one. Now, my favorite story arc. Now, Death Note, it's kind of difficult to determine story arcs. And the reason for that being is because the anime series is only 37 episodes, the manga series is only 12 volumes, and it's an overarching story, so it's kind of hard to gauge story arcs. But I will go as far as to say my favorite, if I was trying to determine a story arc, would be the one when they found out who, I believe they deemed him the second Kira. And the second Kira was a board executive for a prominent corporation. What was it, like the Hoshiba Corporation or some shit like that? Anyway, but it's the couple of episodes where the executive becomes he becomes like the second Kira. With Rin giving him Misa's death note, he becomes the second Kira, and he starts killing people in Light's stead. But he isn't doing it because he isn't doing it out of some type of righteousness. He's doing it because these people conflict with his company's interests. And by this point in time, this is the little story arc right after Light had to clear his name. And so what has happened now is that Light and Misa are working with L in order to catch Kira. And the story arc ends with Light getting his death note back and then kind of resuming the role of Kira. But I would say this is probably my favorite arc in Death Note because it introduces a third-party villain, and it takes the main hero and the main villain, and it forces them to work together in order to catch this villain. But all of this shit was planned out by Light fucking, way before, he had to clear his name and whatnot. And so watching the whole thing just kind of come about, I just really fucking loved. I loved it. My least favorite story arc, if I had to determine another story arc, would probably be Misa's introductory arc. Like the first few episodes where Misa appears for the first time, and then I guess you could say her arc would end with her being captured, but then you could also argue that that arc would end with Light clearing his name. So it's kind of hard to determine where that arc ends. But I fucking hate that arc because I hate fucking Misa. I don't fucking like her. So, yeah. Least favorite arc. And finally, why is Death Note one of my favorite animes? Well, Death Note, for me, it is in nature one of the first mature series that I actually got into. And what I mean is this: I'm not talking about like a series that I just caught on the fly, or a series that I got introduced to during its syndication on television or anything like that. No, I got introduced into Death Note with the first chapter in the October 2005 issue of American Shonen Jump. And I remember it because that was what I was reading when I was leaving New Orleans, when I had to vacate for Hurricane Katrina. That's what I was reading in the car. And so by the time, when we fast forward to December 2007, when I was looking for a new anime to watch, I remembered that the anime had came out in Japan 2 months prior. And so what I did was I caught up on the first 8 episodes, and then every week I was watching Death Note as the new episode premiered in Japan. So it's the first like mature themed series that I was actually faithfully following. But also I like the fact that, and yes, I call it a mature series. Damn. I call it a mature series because even though it's classified as a shonen, the material, the content is not for children. It's way too fucking mature, a fucking notebook that can kill people, that is used to kill hundreds upon thousands of people. Yeah, that shit's not for children. So this whole like, oh, it's shonen, I'm sorry, that's bullshit. And to say that this shit is marketed towards kids disturbs the fuck out of me, because it's not marketed like that in America. In America, it's marketed, I think, ages 15 and up over here, but in Japan they're marketing it, you know, in the fucking shonen. No, that disturbs the shit out of me, because this is way too fucking mature. I would argue no one beneath the age of 13 should fucking read this seriously or watch the anime, because it's not intended for kids. But anyway, so why is it my favorite? Because it was one of the first anime that I actually got introduced to that did not rely on action. There is action in the series, but not in the sense like Dragon Ball Z or Yu Yu Hakusho or Rurouni Kenshin, because there's no martial arts, there's barely any fighting. All of the action is realistically, you know, when I'm talking about action, I'm talking about like a gunfight or explosions or a car accident or something like that. It's all realistic action that actually does take place in the real world. So and another thing, I love that this series starts off in the real world and for the most part is grounded in the real world, but there is a supernatural element in it that provides that sense of escapism and provides that sense of fiction and fantasy, despite the fact that it is grounded in the real world. And I like that because me myself as a writer, the way that Death Note has influenced me as a writer is that those are the stories I like to tell, the ones that take place in the real world and are grounded in the real world, but there's that supernatural element that creates the escapism. And I like that, and I admire that. It's very well written. The dialogue is fucking phenomenal. In all its incantations, in the manga, in the anime, and even in the movies. Even though I know fans of the series don't really care for the movies that much, the movies are actually pretty damn good because the fucking dialogue is still there. The dialogue is still in the fucking movies, which I loved. The animation is great because Madhouse animated it. And let me see what else. I love the music, the scores. I love the theme music, like the opening and ending themes. I fucking love. And let me see, is there anything else? All of the themes that go into it, all of the political aspects that are introduced into it, all of that I like. You know, the whole murder, mystery, crime, drama theme that goes into that shit too, I fucking love, because let's face it, in the shonen genre, those aren't the stories you see prominent in the shonen genre. The, you know, crime and murder mystery. You don't, oh, and horror. And yeah, and horror is a little bit more prominent than like the crime murder mystery bit. But still, all in all, a story with all those mixtures of genres you don't see prominent in the shonen demographic. So I like that Death Note was able to introduce that and be successful at it. So that's going to wrap up my anime favorites for August 2012. Death Note. I want to thank you all for joining me this week. And in the comments below, let me know your thoughts on the series. And okay, and my next anime favorite will probably be Avatar: The Last Airbender. Yeah, that's going to be my next anime favorites for September. So, wrapping this up, what you can find out later, what you can look forward to later this week, I'm actually uploading 4 videos this weekend, so there will be an upload on Monday night. Look out for that. I got my discussion of the week, where I'm talking about video games in this week's discussion of the week, my comic book Hollywood for Watchmen, and my Smallville Season 2 review, and those will be up Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, respectively. Also, don't forget, pledge to my comic book miniseries totems on Kickstarter.com. Come on, guys. Come on. We can do this. We can do this. We almost there, man. We almost at that goal, bro. We're close. We're so close. I can feel it. The finish line is right there. I'm looking at it. I'm looking at the finish line. We almost there. Come on, guys. Need your help. We need this last push. This is when we win the game. In the fourth quarter. We win it in the fourth quarter. Alright, cool. Anyway, this has been Larry Williams, OAW Commander-in-Chief, signing off. And until next time, peace.